Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves. After we had that episode where we were speaking about how I felt really hopeless, I actually checked myself because I am hopeless on the outside. I'm hopeless when it comes to other people and my expectations of other people and scenarios and things like that. But I'm not hopeless when it comes to myself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was what I sent you, by the way.
Okay.
Which clearly you read really, really heartfeltly. Because
Don't take it personally. I had a lot going on this morning.
No, it's okay. Because actually,
I thought we'd be able to talk it out today. That's why I was
sense.
like, I will. It's really not. Anyway,
because actually, what I realized was that over the past couple of days, I've been in a bit of a funk, which I haven't really experienced in a while for such a prolonged period of time. Normally, my funks will last a couple of hours or maybe 24 hours max, and they normally get processed quite quickly. And it's familiar high after that relief of knowing that you've kind of processed something new.
Yes. Breakthrough and it's all good.
Exactly. But this time it took longer and it wasn't shifting no matter what I did. All my tried and tested things weren't shifting. I missed myself. I missed feeling that I was in touch.
Read that.
Okay, good.
I swear.
That feeling when you are in your power, when you are in your own, when you're grounded in yourself, no matter what really happens on the outside, you can maintain that detached peace because you know you'll be okay.
Okay.
When you slip out of it for whatever reason, all of a sudden, all my old coping mechanisms, all my old patterns came back very easily for a short period of time, but they weren't making me feel better. They were making me feel more lost. They were making me feel more confused. When I started writing all of this and just being like, I just miss me. I miss who I'd become. And even though my external has not changed an iota, my experience of it is so fundamentally different that I'm unhappy. And I don't know how I can shift out of this. Yes. And then I wrote, but I hope I will. And I went, wow, actually, I don't have hope when it comes to anyone else, anything else. But I do have hope when it comes to me continuing to grow, me continuing to evolve, me getting to the space I want to be in.
That is so beautiful. Oh my God. I love that so much.
But no, I do, right?
It's
we
really
all do.
Lovely. I don't know if we all do. I wouldn't speak for everyone else.
No,
but it's really nice that you do.
Yeah, I'm totally hopeless when it comes to everything else. But I know I'll be okay. And that is hope in some ways because it's an unknown future.
Very much. Right? And we did talk about before how hope is really is setting that intention for something to come. Hope is knowing that we are here for more than what we see, experience, and feel in the moment, right? Now, what gets us from that feeling of hopelessness, the opposite of hope is effectively despair, which I think many had been experiencing a fair amount of that this year in 2020, is intention.
Okay, explain.
What brings us out of that feeling of despair and allows us to imagine that our lives, whatever comprises our lives, relationships, experiences, circumstances, is how we can imagine it to be, right?
I'm confused.
I know that my life can be X, right? Just like you said, I hope it can be. I hope I can get to that point.
I can get back there.
Right. Well, it's not about getting back. All it is, it's about reconnecting to yourself because all you experienced was disconnection. It's quite simple because you are not that person. You are effectively that person. You merely disconnected from it. And that bit that you disconnected from was that divine part of yourself.
But dreading an outcome, to me, I thought was the absence of hope. As in hope is the positive. Tomorrow will be better, Annie style. Whereas dread is tomorrow will be worse. Right?
So dread is the precursor to despair. Dread gets us to despair.
okay, so first you're dreading, and then you're like, oh God, I can't even
You've
live in
given
this
up.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Despair
whereas
is
kind of
complete giving up. Yeah.
So I guess while dread is, I can appreciate this moment is good, but I'm dreading the next. Despair is, I can't even see the good in this moment either. It's just
Exactly.
all gone. Yeah. You know, when we went back to it, it really was, the core of that was me dreading, not hoping, because as we said, I don't have that much of it, the unknown of what the world will look like, what my world will look like. And, you know, and it kind of made me go back into my 3D thinking, because at least I knew what that was. Because
that's all we've ever experienced throughout our lifetime. So it's familiar.
But then how do I, personally, and I guess collectively, if other people feel the same way, I appreciate that living in that kind of unknown, uncertain space is a hallmark of 5D, right? Yes. Because everything just flows and you can't expect, you can't have expectations, because things normally are going to turn out in very different but even more beautiful ways. Yes. So you can't really have expectations in the same way, right?
Not at all. Especially because nobody's lived in that vibration or that's, you know, or in that state before. So we have nothing to inform us.
Yes. So then, but I also still feel like hope is just too much of a stretch for me. I'm not a hopeful person.
I'm right there with you.
So what the fuck do we do? If we can kind of avoid despair, but we also can't hope, how do we get to that next place? How do we live in the uncertain, or how can we make the leap into the unknown? Yeah. If we're scared of hope, or if we cannot tap into our hope.
You know what? It begins with love, and not in the big love way that we discussed in season 3, because even that might be a bit of a stretch. You know, the whole love is shining our light for others to see. That might be a lot to get to when we're really feeling dread or despair, if we've gotten to that point. It starts small. Sometimes it's the small step of, I'm going to do one loving act towards myself.
When I experienced this recently, is that it wasn't, at first I did the loving act towards myself of washing my hair, painting my nails, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, going to bed when I wanted to, like choosing me. And that was part of it. But actually the real loving act for me in that instance was allowing myself to feel love for others again.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I know that sounds really backwards, so I'll try and explain it.
Okay.
When you're hopeless, when you're feeling dread about what's going to happen next, it's one thing to have hope and faith and trust in yourself that you'll be okay no matter what. But that's not what we're dreading. We're not always dreading that we'll be okay no matter what. What we're dreading is that we won't be happy no matter what. That we won't be in pleasure no matter what. That we won't actually have an amazing life, not a one we have to endure life. Right? So actually, when that's the stage, when that's the level you're going for. So in season 1, it was just, we just want to get through it. We just want to be okay.
Make the best of it.
Okay is enough. Season 2 was, let's define okay, and let's maybe get to fine.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. You're like, I want to be more than fine. Like halfway through, suddenly
this
it was
is
like,
fine. This is like, you know what I mean? Like, this is fine. Season 2 tick. Season 3 was a lot more like, okay, can we be open and fine? You know, can we have pockets of happiness and joy? Right? Can we have moments of that? Yes. In between moments of just being okay and fine by ourselves.
Yes.
You know, whereas I think now at this stage, it's much more like, I don't want to be fine. I don't want to be okay. I don't want to be mediocre or neutral. I want to be in my power, happy, in bliss, in love, in light, in amazing, in yummy. You know?
Yes.
That's where I want to be.
Yes.
Like, that's the bar we're going for now. And how
that's
great.
A very high bar, right?
It's a high bar, but that's the bar. And you know what?
It's achievable. And it's achievable.
And that's what we've been teaching 5D years. It's achievable. But then the thing is that, so once I'd done the loving act towards myself of like the bath, the shower, whatever else, that was all season 1, season 2 shit that I was used to doing. And it wasn't shifting me out of it, really.
Yeah.
Because I was fine. I hadn't stopped being fine because I was feeling a bit more 3D than usual. I hadn't stopped feeling fine. I hadn't stopped feeling okay. I hadn't stopped surviving. but I'd kind of lost touch of my divinity, right? I'd lost touch of my connection.
Which, by the way, was also season 2. So let's give season 2 a little bit more credit.
Yeah. No, but what I mean is, like,
I loved season 2.
I hated season 2.
That's why you were like, it's just fine. It's fine. I'm like, but we talked about, and what was one of the most critical points of season 2 was purpose and power.
Personally, I need to experience it before I understand anything. You can tell me anything theoretically. My mind will attach all sorts of significance towards it, and it won't ever be what it actually is.
I'm right there with you.
Honestly. But when it came to this time, when it came to really having, taking that next step back to love again, to be able to reconnect, to move away from dread. And even though if I couldn't hope, because hope is just not my thing, I could maybe get to my faith, my trust, my knowing again.
Yes.
I had to do that, yes, through loving acts towards myself, recentering myself. But once that recentering has happened, allowing myself to believe it was possible to have a connection with someone else again. And connecting to them from my heart space, even from a moment, to feel the love that I had for them. And that allowed me to reconnect back to the bigger love.
Because that's really the point of when the self-care isn't quite enough, because that level of despair is maybe a bit deeper, or you just, like you said, it's coming from a place that the other stuff just isn't really remedying. Yes. And so what you were describing is engagement. If I could allow myself to feel a connection, because you have it with yourself.
Yeah.
As you said, that loving act toward yourself, that was all good. It felt good to do.
Yeah.
But at some point, it doesn't have to be enough. Like, we don't have to keep telling ourselves, as long as I love myself, that is enough. Yes. Okay. Yes. Our karmic story is all I'm good enough, etc. But as you said, when you get to a point where you've transited enough your karmic story and you know you are good enough, and all that has really seeped in and stuck and informed you, you can still have those bouts like you've just described, right? They're fewer and far between.
Oh, that's good.
They can happen because, especially at a time when our world looks like shit and our daily experiences are less than ideal, that really won't necessarily be in our control. And that's okay, because we can still be in our power and not necessarily feel in control.
Being in your power often means not being in control.
Yes. Or not needing to feel in control.
No, because that's an expression of fear. Right.
Yeah. So what you were kind of talking about was the moment I can really engage and connect to that love, but on a level that I cannot do just for myself. And that's key. And that's just another step in that evolution in knowing ourselves.
And I guess that's one closeness to oneness.
Yes.
Whatever
And
happens,
so
it's okay.
And it gives you perspective on that story or that issue.
Yeah, because love always puts everything in perspective, which is normally it's quite minuscule compared to the big feeling.
Well, because one is the truth and the other is fear, which we know is not true. It doesn't take a lot to get back there. It can just be good sex with somebody. It could be meditation if that's your jam. It could be just hanging out with a really, really, really good friend who makes you laugh.
But it has to be something that you're not doing on a superficial level going, I hope this will make me feel better.
No.
It has to be something where you're tapping into that love.
Completely. So something meaningful. I mean, and it might be that it's a stretch. Like the idea of love for some could still be a stretch. Yeah. So we could say, does it bring you joy?
Yes.
And I don't mean that sort of enthusiastic 5-second kind of excitement that a 5-year-old gets on, Christmas morning. But does it give you that nice, warm, fuzzy on the inside kind of joy?
As we talk about happiness being the precursor to peace, joy is, as we've always said, the precursor to love.
Yeah.
The more you tap into that yumminess, the more it can grow to love, and the more you feel connected. I can't almost quite explain it, but I understand it on some level now.
And you do realize that when you experience this more and more, and I don't mean experience like the negative stuff and you're home alone for a weekend and you're wallowing and stuff, but when you have these moments and you've been through this enough the past couple of years to understand, it's a muscle you train. It's something you understand how to deal with it until it becomes second nature.
Is happiness and joy not the same thing?
No.
Why? One comes from the mind and one comes from the heart?
Because peace and love are not the same. And each one is a precursor to the other. So joy is the precursor to love. So joy gets us to love.
Yeah.
And happiness gets us to peace.
Yeah, because one is much more of a calm feeling and one is much more of a bubbly feeling.
One is much more internal and the other one is much more shared.
So joy and love is much more of a shared thing. And happiness and wow, interesting. Did you know that already?
No, not until I did this bit. Not until I did the outline and I was like, that's interesting.
But that's so true, actually.
It is.
Because if you think about it, we have joy as we're doing this podcast, blah, blah, right? That's how it starts, all the rest of it. Or in a relationship where you're spending like cuddling or spending time together, that's joy, right?
You always go to the cuddling bit. It is hilarious.
love a good cuddle.
So it's like in almost every episode this season.
I know, I just talk about
and when you're cuddling and then he cuddles you and you're cuddling each other and
there's like joy and there's joy.
And then I kind of feel love.
Yeah. Honestly, my like obsession with cuddling. Anyway, so all the cuddling. But yeah, that makes actually total sense because joy and love is, you share it, right? You share the love, you share, like when you're shining your light out for others to see, even that definition includes you and others.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's a shared experience. Whereas peace is something you feel inside and happiness is something you feel inside. It's almost like happiness is the singular and joy is the plural.
Very much. And I hope it doesn't like throw things off when I say this, but love is what is required to get to peace. Because peace is the result of the light that comes from when we are shining it for the world to see.
Okay,
so,
you just went blah, 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 blah.
How do I say this? Love is the act of shining our light for the world to see, right?
Yes, the big love.
And peace is,
as in because we said earlier, like there's big love, which is shining our light for the world to see.
Yeah, and that's the big love.
Yeah.
That's the big love.
Big
right?
capital L, that's what we mean.
And peace is a result of that light.
So when you're shining that light out, then you can feel real peace. I get it in the sense that nothing in this world, we are never an island. So whilst we have to learn to love ourselves first, so we can share that love, in order to get to peace, in order to get to the big places we want to get to, we do it together.
Yeah.
Which is why relationship is so important, which is why we spent a whole season on it. Because you can only get so far by yourself.
Exactly.
And which is why, to all those people out there who are wondering, will I ever meet anyone? Or am I destined to always be alone? In this day and age, the answer is no. Because the goal is for us to transcend and to get to the big P in peace, the big F in freedom, the big L in love. And we can't do that alone, but we can only start to do that once we've loved ourselves. So whilst the journey at the beginning is alone, the end result is definitely together, which is why it's oneness, consciousness, and why it's relationships. And I don't know how I knew any of that.
That's beautiful. And that's why it's called
Is that
Together.
right?
It is. It's perfect. And that's why this is called Together Again, because that's what will bring us all together. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.